and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Smith and I help you simplify home education so you can work wonders in your home. Today I'm going to talk to you about exams. My family has been on a long trip and I'm sure you've all seen the videos that I've posted of our adventures in each city. We're back home, we got settled back into our routine just in time for exam week. So if you're not familiar with exams, you're probably thinking of something like state testing that was inflicted upon us when we were in public school or charter school or maybe even private schools. So this examination week is very different than testing week. So exam week in a Charlotte Mason school was more about just seeing what children learned, giving them the opportunity to retrieve that knowledge that has been stored in their long-term memory, bring it up, and help them showcase what they have learned, how they've grown, and the skills that they've developed over that term. So just as a reminder, there are 3 terms in a year. Each one is about 3 months, and there were exams at the end of every term. So during the school year, kids have 3 exam weeks. So we are getting to the end of our school year and we have an exam week coming up next week. And I have been preparing for it and I thought this would be a good time to make a video and talk about what this is and give you some tips and tricks on scheduling, planning, and executing your own exam week for homeschool. What I really want to bring home to you is that this is not a week for kids to dread. This is not a week for them to feel like, oh no, now I've got to try to remember all these minute facts, all these things that my mom or teacher are gonna throw at me, and I'm gonna try to read her mind. Maybe she's gonna put in some trick questions just to see who's really paying attention and narrow down the cream of the crop. This is not what exam week is. This is absolutely not what exam week is. So get that out of your mind and just remember that this is going to be a memorable week for your kids. In fact, my boys say they look forward to exam week. I'm being completely honest with you, probably because exams are a lot shorter than the actual school day or morning lessons. But I try to make it memorable and I try to make it low stress because it is a celebration of my children. It is a celebration of what they've learned, the skills developed, and the person that they are becoming. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I've done this. And just so you know, I have a little surprise for you all. And I'm going to tell you what that is at the end. And I'm also going to share a story. So when I was at BYU, I was studying family studies and human development, and my capstone class was family processes. And there were only 3 assignments for this class: a research paper, a midterm, and a final exam. And his exams were like Charlotte Mason exams. And guess what? The topics that I was examined on, those I remembered for the last 15 plus years since I graduated because of the way that I was examined. I retrieved that knowledge, and the more that you retrieve knowledge from your long-term memory, the easier it is for you to retrieve that and remember it, and even better if you make connections to other things. So for example, when I went into the testing center, there was just one phrase or a few phrases, and it was, tell me about forgiveness in families. How does it affect the processes? And pretend that a couple comes into you with infidelity and they need counseling. How would you use forgiveness? What have you learned from studies to help this family or this couple? So I'd write 5 pages about forgiveness in families. It was really hard. This is the thing about exams and retrieval and truly effective learning methods. They are challenging. They're not easy. And that doesn't mean that it's not good. It just means that your child is learning in a more effective way. It also doesn't mean your child's going to dread it either. So that is my experience with exams out of a Charlotte Mason context. And when I became a homeschooling mom, I knew that's how I wanted to do examinations for my kids at the end of the year or at the end of a term. And so that is a little story, a little history of why I do exams the way I do. When I learned about how Charlotte Mason did exams, it just clicked. I knew this is real. This is the right way to be examining children and seeing what they've learned over the term or the year. So without further ado, let's talk about how I schedule exams. So I just do the end of the week, set apart the end of the week of our term. So it'd be either week 12 or week 13, depending on how you schedule your terms. And the last week, each day I schedule a few exams for a few different subjects. Here is my schedule for next week. History, math, and picture study. And then nature study / science, language arts, Plutarch. I have poetry, composer study, scriptures, and citizenship. Wednesday's a little bit more of a day, but it's just my oldest who'll be doing that one. Geography, literature, grammar. And then at the end, this is kind of fun. I like to do a talent show and a showcase event. You can do this with other families. You can just do it with your family. So far, it's been hard to get all of our homeschool families together on one day to get this done. So it may just end up being our family this year. But having children play a musical instrument or a song that they've learned on their musical instrument, they can showcase their best art that they've done, either with in an art class or stuff they've done on their own. They can show their best work in their nature journals, in their book of centuries. They can show an invention, a machine they've made, anything that they want to show off and present to their family and friends. So that's a little fun thing that you can do to give them something to look forward to by the end of the exam week, and also just to realize that this is a celebration of the knowledge I've gained. So once I've done that, then I go through and I pick out questions that we will use for our exam. The nice thing is that for some curriculum, like math and science, the exam questions are already thought out for me. So here I like to use the Charlotte Mason Elementary Arithmetic series. That is from Simply Charlotte Mason, and there are exam questions in there. There's really only about 5 to 10 questions. So one thing to remember with when you're doing questions, you don't want a lot. You want a few open-ended questions, and you want your children to write a lot or tell you a lot about those things. You don't want a lot of things like 100 multiple choice questions about one little piece of information on each question. You just want a few questions that they're going to talk a lot about. So in science, I use Sabbath Mood Homeschool. And here are the questions that come with it. There's just a few for nature lore, a few for natural history, which would be science. My son did machines, technology, and engineering this year. And then special studies, the special study topics that we did as a family. So that is nice. That work's already done for me. And you may have a curriculum that already has that done. If you don't, which I have quite a few subjects. I'm trying to find my other page here. There we go. I created a little document here that is just open-ended questions for each topic or subject, and they are very general, like tell me about. Then I can just fill it in here. Tell me about Leonardo da Vinci, because that's who we learned about in history. Describe the Crimean War. Why did it start? What happened, or what battles were fought? Who were the sides agents? You can add some more, make it a little bit more specific if you want. You could say, tell me all you know about an event or a person. And so I put, tell me all you know about Napoleon Bonaparte, because my son also read about him this year. So those are some examples from history. For geography, we don't do a lot of open-ended questions. It's more fill in the map. So we learned about more Southern Europe, but I have a whole map of Europe here. And we watched a lot of documentaries from Europe from above, which goes over each country, talks about the geography through the seasons, how the geography affects the commerce, the jobs, the economy, and the culture. So we watched a few of those, mainly in Southern Europe, because that's where we traveled this spring. So I'm going to have them fill in the countries as well as some landmarks, like bodies of water, the seas around it, the rivers, the highest peaks, mountain ranges. I'm going to have them fill that in. And these are from online.cetera.com. I will put the link in the description box in case you're interested in these blank maps. So for geography, I have them fill in the maps, but I also ask them to describe the geography of those countries, like Italy and Spain and Greece and Turkey, which we studied. So describe it, describe the climate, and you could ask them to talk about how it affects the culture. Next is nature study. You could say something like, tell me everything you know about a plant or animal that you studied that term. You could ask them to draw pictures of the life cycle of, say, an ant or a frog, whatever you studied that term. I like to take a nature walk and ask my boys to identify different plants that we had learned about that year. Charlotte Mason said about 6. We usually don't do quite that many, but we have learned quite a lot this year. Another fun thing is if you studied birds, which we did study some birds, and when we read about a native species of bird, I have them listen to the song or call of that bird and then point to the picture when they hear it, and then we do that often. So this year for the exam, I'm going to have them listen to a bird call and point to the correct picture of that bird. I'm really excited about doing that. I've done it in the past and it's been a hit. The key is I don't think we'll be able to do 6 like Charlotte Mason recommended, but about 3 species of birds my boys would be able to identify. And then you could do picture study, literature. You could ask your child to tell you about their favorite story they read in literature, and then draw a scene from the stories that they read. So it doesn't have to all be telling, it could be drawing. You could also have them draw the steps of an experiment they did in science and then tell you about what they learned. And finally, you can have them recite a poem or sing a song that they learned, their favorite one. I have lots of questions here, about 6 pages worth of questions, along with blank spaces where you can make them your own and customize them for your family's needs. And now for the surprise, I made a free exam guide for you. Everything that you're gonna need to have the best exam week possible. How to schedule it, an example schedule with all of the subjects, and then 6 pages of exam questions for all the topics. Just generic exam questions, but then blanks where you can fill in and customize those questions for your family. The link is going to be in the description box below. Just enter your email and it'll be sent to you. And if you're a member of Patreon, my membership site, you are going to be getting a little bit more bonus content related to exams. And if you aren't aware, I do have that membership site. It's only $5 a month. I put out weekly content, mostly videos of lessons with my kids, showing you what Charlotte Mason's principles look like applied in my own home. And I also answer any questions you have about it, give you some clarification. And there's a whole community of mamas who are also learning how to apply Charlotte Mason's methods. So if that is something interesting to you, then it will also be in the description box below. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'd be happy to help.